Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Helen with ADU1, Retrofit 1, and now Balcony 1. Thank you for waiting. We usually start a couple minutes after in order for everybody to log on and everything. So thank you for joining us today, Wednesday, February 9th. Today we are going to be doing, I know we've been doing a lot of city spotlights the past maybe a few weeks, month or two, something like that. Today though, because we've had a lot more people registering for our webinars, I'm just going to keep it basic today with just our regular ADU rules across the state, as well as do a short segment on the balcony inspections per sb326 and sb721. So that's for all buildings with 3 or more units, as well as HOA and condominium communities. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat room on the side, and I will get to them as soon as I stop sharing my screen. So I'm just going to share a presentation today that covers, again, rules for both multifamily properties and single family properties. So that way you can know how many ADUs you can do, what type you can do, where they could go. And then we'll also get into the balcony inspections. So at the end, I will leave our contact info in the chat in case there's anything that wasn't answered during the presentation. So I will now share my screen. All right, you should hopefully be able to see that. So again, I'm Helen with ADU1, Retrofit 1, and Balcony 1. And we do both the engineering full set of plans for your projects, as well as, of course, the full scope construction. And we will discuss today how the ADU rules apply to both single family and multifamily properties. An ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit. It's an accessory to the main building, whether it's your house or a commercial or residential multifamily property. It has full independent living facilities like what you see here, a kitchen, bathroom with a common space. It does not have to have its own separate bedroom. It can be a studio or a bachelor. In the past, when these were only permitted for single family properties, they were known as granny flats, in-law suites, guest houses, and so forth. In the past, ADUs and currently were used for expanding your home, doing some additions, adding square footage, a place for any family member to stay, whether it was a kid from, before, during, or after college, or an elderly parent, or anything like that, just to have a kind of private living space away from the home. What we help you do, regardless of your intentions, our main goal is to help maximize and increase your rental income. But even if you are in a single family home, for example, and you just want to do an ADU for a family member and you do not intend to rent it out, that's totally fine. It doesn't matter what you use it for, as long as legal, of course. But we will help, especially when it comes to multifamily properties, help you maximize your rental income, since multifamily properties do have more choices for your ADUs in terms of quantity and so forth. Here's an example of a single family home with an attached ADU. This used to be a garage, so it was converted into its own dwelling unit. As you see here, if you can see my cursor, it does have a separate entryway than the main house. All ADUs are required to have their own exterior entrance. The garage door was removed. Anything, all of the exterior stucco work was done to make sure it blends and matches with the house if it didn't already, and especially where we remove the garage door. So this is an example, again, of an attached ADU, also known in this case, a conversion. So they converted the attached garage. For single family homes, you could either do a conversion such as this with a structure that's already attached, or for single family homes, you can also do new construction that is then attached to the house or to the main structure. That type of ADU is not permitted for multifamily properties. Multifamily properties can only do conversions of existing space. So similar to this example, or if it's tuck under parking, attached garage, tuck under, storage room, a basement, attic, as long as it has the minimum height requirement. That's what attached means for multifamily. So it has to be an internal conversion. Single family homes can have internal conversions and new construction that's attached. If your city and area allows, you could also put new construction of an ADU on top of an existing garage. And it could still be on top of the house like this, or kind of part of the existing structure if you do not want to use the actual garage and you still want to keep some parking, or if you're using it as storage. So if your height allows it, and if your city allows second story ADUs, we could design it on top, design and build. Detached ADUs are basically the same for single family homes and multifamily. You can either convert an existing detached structure, such as a detached garage, a detached carport, a detached storage room, any type of existing legally permitted structure. You can either convert, or detached can also be new construction for both single family and multifamily. There are certain building separations that you have to keep in mind. It's usually 6 feet. Some cities require 10, and I may have even seen a city require 15. That one is kind of an outlier and it's pretty rare. It is typically 6 feet and on occasion 10 feet building separations, meaning that you have to build the unit 6 or 10 feet away from the primary building. And then, of course, for new construction, you also have to adhere to setbacks, which is 4 feet pretty much across the board for most cities, 4 feet side and rear setbacks. So you cannot build on the property line, and you cannot build, a foot or two away from your house or your building. Here's an example of a detached ADU, which was a conversion, because as you can see, it is on the property line. So if you have a legal permitted structure and it's already on the property line, you are in most cases permitted to convert as is and keep its footprint. These are where some of the bigger differences come from between multifamily and single family rules with the quantity. How many ADUs can you add? So for multifamily properties, and we get this kind of question and confusion a lot. So multifamily permits either and or attached and detached. Attached, again, are just internal conversions when it comes to multifamily, so converting existing space. So in the multifamily world, regarding attached or those internal conversions, you can do at least one unit, which applies to duplexes all the way up to 7 units. So you can do at least one, or up to 25% of your existing number of units. This really only takes effect after 8 units. So if you have an 8-unit building with tuck under parking, you can convert that tuck under parking into 2 ADUs following the 25% rule. If you have a 12 or 13 or 14 unit building, you can convert existing space, which is part of the building, into 3. You don't have to do all of it. You can do 1 to 3. So it's just showing you what the max allowed you can do with the 25%. For single family homes, you are only permitted 1 ADU, and that's whether it's a conversion, new construction attached or detached. Under the ADU rules, you can only do 1. If you want to do a second ADU, there is what is called a junior ADU. And as the name suggests, it is a junior version of the ADU. There are certain limitations with this junior ADU. I forgot if these slides go into it, but I'll repeat it if needed. The junior ADU has a maximum square footage of 500 square feet, cannot be more. It has to be an internal conversion of existing space. An attached garage is permitted, or it just has to be part of the existing footprint of the house that is closed off with an exterior entrance and a kitchen. But again, maximum 500 square feet. And then another large rule for this is it has to be owner occupied. So the owner of the property must live in either the house or the junior ADU, if you plan to do a junior ADU. And in most cases, I have yet to see anything different across these cities. If you are doing a junior ADU, which again will have to be part of the existing home, and you do the ADU has to be detached. you cannot convert an attached garage into the junior ADU and then build on top of it as an ADU or do an addition as the ADU. The junior ADU and ADU, I have yet to see be permitted to be all together in the home. So in most cases, the cities that I've been reading require the ADU to be detached if you are doing the junior ADU. And then at the bottom here goes into examples for the multifamily allowance, which again, you're allowed at least one attached for duplexes to 7 units. Right after 8 units is where the 25% kicks in, all the way up. The list keeps going. Now, when it comes to detached for multifamily, this is where you can get even more property, more units if your city allows it. So for multifamily properties across California, you're permitted to do up to 2 detached ADUs. In some cities, they allow you to do both, to utilize that 25% rule and up to 2 detached ADUs. Los Angeles, for example, let's say you have an 8-unit building with tuck under parking. You can technically, under the 25% rule, convert the tuck under parking into 2 ADUs. And let's say you have either detached carports or just areas of land on the parcel. You can also do up to 2 detached ADUs, meaning a total of up to 4 ADUs are permitted in Los Angeles. This law, the whole ADU law was amended and changed and created in 2020. And now, as we enter the beginning of 2022, a lot of changes really happened in 2021. More cities were developing their own ordinances, and they do have some flexibility on what they allow within the limits of the state's rules. And the state does say that no city has to permit both configurations, unfortunately. So what we're actually seeing more of as cities develop their own local ordinance is they are not allowing both configurations. They are making it an or situation. Pasadena is one that I can think of that does not allow both attached and detached. Santa Clarita is another one that doesn't allow both. Oh yeah, good. I have a list over here on the right, and actually it's increased since then. So the cities that make you choose, you can either do attached ADUs or detached, are right here: Santa Clarita, Torrance, Long Beach, La Habra, Costa Mesa, Pasadena, Glendale, and there are more now. So I'm noticing they're kind of trying to exert some control over the ADU development, and this is one way that they are doing that. So, and again, that's just for multifamily properties, the up to 2 detached. For single family homes, that one still applies. Whether it's an attached or detached ADU, you can only do one. And if you have the junior ADU, that has to be part of the home. And if you want to still do a regular ADU, in most cases, it has to be attached from the house. I guess for discussing detached garages and carports, if your city permits it and has better height allowance or allows us to engineer something differently, you can build on top of existing detached garages or carports. That way you preserve the parking, all, if not most. Sometimes a stairway may take up one of the spots. But if your city allows, you can build on top. There are already a few cities who only permit single-story ADUs. I have a small list on the right. Glendale, West Hollywood, Pasadena only allows for single-story detached ADUs. If you are a single-family home, though, sometimes the rules are different for single-family homes. They may allow 2 stories. I think Long Beach, I'll double check, but I think Long Beach, for example, allows 2 stories for single family homes building on top, but they have a 16-foot height limit for multifamily. So that's often the case as well. Single family homes may be allowed to build on top. They usually defer to the zoning for the height limit, whereas they only want you to abide by 16 feet height limit for multifamily properties. So it really just depends on your city. I'll briefly get into seismic retrofitting here because this does apply to the ADUs, of course. Across California, seismic retrofitting has been and is currently kind of on a rolling basis being required for these tuck under parking style buildings, also known as dingbat buildings. What's nice is that when doing your seismic retrofitting in the past, you would just have to do this, whether it was a bank requirement or your city's ordinance requirement. This is for cases of earthquake safety and seismic activity. We can install steel and shear walls and other elements that help make the building safer. What you can actually do now is combine your retrofitting requirements with the development of ADUs. And at this point, I know, especially in LA, up north too, a lot of buildings are already retrofitted. So even if your building has already been retrofitted, it's okay. We can still design the ADUs, incorporating those elements. This is just a rendering, but we've actually just designed a few for some mirroring buildings. I think in Northridge was the last one. It already had cantilever columns, at least 3 per building, and we incorporated that into the design, either kind of embedding it within a closet or just the wall itself. Yeah, I think it was all within the structure, a wall or a closet or something like that. So it's going to be concealed and it won't be an issue for the tenant. And we also, of course, make note of where the grade beam is because of plumbing and so forth. So it doesn't pose any problems, and we are still able to design ADUs even if you've done the retrofitting. So this is an example kind of what I was describing. The red are is either the moment frame or the cantilever column, and it's actually in the wall separating these units. In this case here, it is again in the wall of the unit, with also showing some detached. If you have not done your retrofitting yet but still need to, we may also be able to design it just using shear walls rather than all of this, additional steel. So we could do shear walls and still show you exactly where windows could be, what sizes, and so forth. So this is just a really excellent way of taking care of those retrofitting requirements and at least investing back into the building in terms of increased units and monthly income. Here's an example. This one actually, this was kind of just like a first design. This building was going to be retrofitted, and so they actually had multiple options. If they put the unit on the left using 3 spots, so I'm not sure if you can see, it's a 9-spot tuck under building. This is in Inglewood, where the retrofitting is voluntary. So they still wanted to retrofit, which we highly recommend. If you have a tuck under or soft story building, we highly recommend incorporating retrofitting, even if your city doesn't mandate it yet, because you don't want to be in a situation where you turn it into ADUs and there were no shear walls or retrofitting elements, and then you still have to because it's still technically soft story. In this case, they opted to move the unit to the middle, which we were able to use shear walls there. So maybe for my next presentation, I'll update it with what they went with, but it just shows that they could still have a column embedded in the wall and still retrofit as the building as needed. Oh, you know what? I think this is actually already it. So here is the property, the ADU being moved to the middle. And as you can see, it no longer needs those additional columns outside of the unit. It's in the middle. Sorry, I haven't seen this exact PowerPoint in a couple of months because we've been doing the city spotlights. So I forgot that I already incorporated it in here, but that's cool. It's already here. This is the middle. This is what they went with, actually. This is showing to 360 square feet. So we get asked a lot, what do we do with small space? This is a unit proposed above an existing carport. So we're just basically using most of its already kind of size with some portions cantilevered over to get more space. And even out of 360 square feet, we were able to just kind of divide it, still make it a private bedroom with full bath and kind of just the living quarters and kitchen. Obviously, it's a smaller unit, but it's still very appealing. It's going to be brand new, light and bright. And, you know, a lot of the population needs something for different budgets also. So at least it'll appeal to a variety of potential tenants. In this case, this was utilizing the 2 detached units that you can do for multifamily properties. So this is 2 units here, split into 2. So basically a duplex that we are designing. This is on one of the avenues, Avenue 42 maybe, in Los Angeles. This case is existing carport on the left. that we are completely redesigning to keep the cars and parking on the ground floor and put those 2 detached units on the second floor. So as you can see here, this is on the right in the middle. This is where the stairway is. However, what was nice is that even though the stairway in this particular case was taking a parking spot, there was extra space in the rear of the property anyways that we were just able to relocate that one. That's not always the case, but of course, if we are able to relocate and preserve, as you know, all of the parking or most of it, we will always try to do that for you. This is one property with tuck under in both the front and the back. The front is more of just a little efficiency unit, minimum 150 square feet. And the back was larger, I think something like 650 or 750 square feet that we are converting into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath while retrofitting the property at the same time. Here's actually a sample. This needs to be updated. This house is in Lake Balboa. We completely kind of gutted almost down to the studs the house, redid the full house, which is actually, I think, about 98% done. And now in the back, we were excavating and getting it ready for a detached 1,200 square foot ADU. This project is fully underway right now. I believe this is the project that we're doing. Yes, it's Flower in Inglewood. It has 2 tuck under areas, as you see on the left, ADU1, on the right, ADU2. That's currently in construction. So if you want to pass by, let me know. I'll send you the address. We're doing the framing. I think the window framing right now is where I saw it last. This is also it. We've already made a lot of progress here, put a new concrete slab for the floor, done a lot of framing, framed out the bedrooms and rooms. Looks really good. And here's just a rendering showing units on top of an existing garage. Here's a 2-story unit if you just want, if you have like an open lot, for example, and just want to keep that going and build the units on top. As far as parking goes, because I know I mentioned a lot of conversion possibilities, open lot possibilities. The state law says if you are converting a garage or carport for the purpose of ADUs, you do not have to replace that parking. And if your property is within a half mile of public transit, such as a bus stop, you do not have to add additional parking. Most multifamily properties are exempt because of that rule. Every now and then we'll come across a single family home, maybe in a more suburban area or up the hill, that may require parking, but even then tandem parking on your driveway is acceptable. For rent-controlled units, if you are taking away a parking spot or more that's in their lease, you must provide a rent reduction. That is up to what the owner or management company and the tenant agree on. The last kind of window we've heard was somewhere between $60 per month of a reduction, upwards of like $260 per month. So it really depends on your area, how many spots, density, difficulty finding replacement parking, and so forth. And so if you have any other questions about that, just let us know and we'll provide as much info as we can. ADUs also do not trigger a reassessment of the entire property. What happens is that you have to declare a valuation of the project when pulling your permit, and that value is what's added to your current assessed amount. So it becomes a blended assessment. So that is all for the ADU portion. I'm going to just quickly stop. Let's see. Someone, I hope that's fixed. I'm just seeing now Mariana Lopez is saying it's just showing the first page. There may have been a lag or something, but I hope that everybody was still able to see all of those slides. If not, just give us a call or anything, and I'm happy to go over that with you. I don't see any other specific ADU questions. But if you do, feel free to ask them and I'll get to them after. The next portion is about the balcony inspections. So I'm going to go back into that one right now. All right, so hopefully you can see this. And if there's a lag, my apologies. We have been trying to find a good streaming platform. And so far, this one is doing better than the last one we're using, but it may just have some errors. So I'm going to cover sb721. There's also sb326, which applies to HOAs and condominium communities. sb721 are for non-HOAs and condos, and applies to buildings with 3 or more units. So this was actually passed, I believe, in 2019, but it's finally kind of making its way informationally and everything for property owners. So what SB 721 and 326 require is that buildings that have exterior elevated elements, EEEs, must have those elements inspected every 6 years. And this is for the purpose mainly of water damage that could happen to these exterior elements. They have to be at least 6 feet above ground. So ground floor, you're fine. But any of these exterior elements, at least 6 feet above, that are usually for a wood frame, they have to cantilever out. So if they are protruding outwards and at least 6 feet above the ground, you have to get them inspected, mainly for water intrusion, as mentioned. And, unfortunately, these bills were created because of a lot of accidents. I think the main one was the one in Berkeley. I think it was 2015 that a balcony collapsed and a lot of students died. So it was really awful. So since then, they created these bills in order to get all of these exterior elements inspected and repaired if needed. So that way we can potentially prevent those types of accidents from happening again. And there were some recent ones in Malibu, as you may have seen. So again, this bill would require an inspection of those exterior elements. 3 or more units has to be done by a licensed architect, engineer, or a general contractor. So we do all of that in-house. So we can provide you with the inspection and the repairs if repairs are needed. And what is required is that you get them inspected and you maintain a report from whomever did your inspection of, stating all of its findings. So everybody does have until January 1st, 2025. However, if you already visually see certain damage or, water damage, cracks, or anything like that, we highly, highly advise to get that inspected. Inspections are much less costly than like the ADUs or the retrofitting. So you might as well at least just get them inspected to avoid any type of liability or negligence. And if you do go with us or anyone you go with, the inspection report has to be presented to you within 45 days. And let's see. And of course, if we find something of, imminent danger, we have to give you the report even faster, because any type of imminent danger like that, if it's a hazard, has to be repaired. And then non-emergency ones, you have much more time to get it fixed. So that is about it for the balcony pieces. Just to add that I don't have on there, for SB 721, for the buildings with three or more units, you only have to inspect 15% of each element. And the elements are basically divided into certain types of balconies, I think by length, walkways and stairways and decks. So if you have multiple of each kind of those, you just have to do 15% of each type of element has to get inspected. And if you are in an HOA or condominium community, I believe it's something like we have to have minimum 95% certainty of the inspection and safety. So for the condos, it makes sense because they're individually owned. You have to get most of them inspected. Whereas non-condo communities, 15% of each element has to get inspected. So we can go over all of that with you. We only provide the proposal for the 15%, not the entire building if you don't have to. And we do a visual anyways of what our findings are for the property. So that is all for all things ADU for single family homes and multifamily, as well as the balcony inspections per SB 326 and SB 721. If I went too fast or if anything wasn't covered, please feel free to give us a call or email us. I will put our phone number here. We actually also have a very easy number for just balconies if you have a question, but we're all the same company, so you could reach us no matter what. We just have different divisions that are tailored to each type of construction or service. But even if you call the ADU number, you can still reach us for the balcony. That we gave little spiffy vanity numbers to help make it easier. And you can also reach us through our website. There's a contact form there. And then I will also put our kind of general email. It will come to me regardless. If you have any specific property questions or anything that wasn't covered, or if you want an estimate or a proposal or anything like that. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any requests for a specific city that you want to hear about or anything, just email me and let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much, and I will see you next time.